What if I told you the Great Flood, described in the Bible, wasn't just an act of divine wrath, but the result of a cosmic decision by the ancient Anunnaki gods? Humanity had grown rebellious, defying their creators with forbidden knowledge and violence. Enlil, the leader of these gods, saw Earth spiraling into chaos and sought to reset the experiment. The truth behind the flood is far more complex and far more shocking than you've been told. The Earth teemed with life, its cities glowing under the watchful gaze of the Anunnaki, the powerful beings who had descended from the stars to shape the world. Humanity, their creation, had been gifted the knowledge of agriculture, metallurgy, and governance, rising from primitive beginnings to build thriving civilizations. But with growth came defiance. In the vast temple city of Nippur, Enlil, the Earth Commander, stood at the apex of his ziggurat, gazing at the horizon. Smoke rose from human settlements, their wars and excesses spreading like a plague. Reports of rebellion flooded in daily. Human kings had turned their backs on their creators, forming alliances with rogue Anunnaki who had forsaken the divine order. "This cannot continue," Enlil declared, his voice like a thunderclap in the sacred halls of the Great Assembly. The Anunnaki gathered there, listened in tense silence. "The humans, our creation, have defied the boundaries we set. They have weaponized knowledge, desecrated the land, and turned their swords against even the heavens. They are no longer an asset, they are a threat." Enki, the wise and compassionate brother of Enlil, stood in opposition. "It is true they have strayed," he admitted, "but they are young, still learning. It was we who gave them the tools of progress. We cannot punish them for following the path we laid before them." Tensions rippled through the assembly. Marduk, Enki's son, a fiery and ambitious Anunnaki, spoke up. "Perhaps the fault lies not with humanity, but with the rigid rules of those who rule them," he said, his sharp gaze fixed on Enlil. "If they rebel, it is because they have outgrown their chains." Enlil's fury boiled over. Chains? They were given order and purpose. Now they spread chaos and destruction. "If this rebellion is not crushed, it will consume us all. I propose we reset the Earth, wipe out this defiance, and begin anew." The assembly erupted in heated debate. Some sided with Enlil, fearing the dangers of an unchecked humanity. Others, like Enki, argued for mercy and guidance. But the seeds of division were already sown. While the assembly deliberated, Enlil wasted no time. He ordered covert operations to weaken the rebellious human factions. Anunnaki warriors descended upon the rebellious cities, destroying weapons caches and dismantling infrastructure. Plagues were unleashed upon the densest populations, and strategic storms ravaged their farmlands. In the mountains of Arata, a human stronghold loyal to Marduk's faction became the site of the first battle. Enlilite forces, clad in gleaming armor and wielding weapons that crackled with raw energy, descended from their vimanas, celestial warships. The human defenders, armed with crude but powerful siege engines and fiery determination, stood their ground. The skies blazed with light as Anunnaki forces clashed above, their battle cries echoing across the valleys. Plasma bolts rained down, turning the battlefield into a smoldering wasteland. But the humans, guided by rogue Anunnaki, fought with unexpected ferocity. Their weaponry, primitive yet devastating, managed to damage even the advanced vimanas. Enlil watched the battle from afar, his expression grim. The humans were more resourceful than he had anticipated. "They grow bold," he muttered. "We must strike harder." Word of the attack spread like wildfire. Far from crushing the rebellion, Enlil's assault only fueled it. Human kings united under Marduk's banner, their resolve hardened by the destruction they had witnessed. Secret meetings were held in hidden fortresses, where strategies were crafted and alliances were forged. Marduk himself stood at the forefront, a charismatic leader who promised freedom from Anunnaki oppression. "They call us rebellious," he proclaimed to a gathering of human warriors. "But we only seek to claim what is ours." The Anunnaki took this earth and made us slaves. Now, we take it back. Under Marduk's guidance, the humans began to create weapons and machines that rivaled the Anunnaki's technology. Engineers, taught by rogue Anunnaki, designed siege engines capable of toppling even the mightiest ziggurats. Alchemists experimented with volatile substances, creating explosives that could shatter stone. Enki, torn between loyalty to his family and compassion for humanity, secretly aided their efforts. He believed in humanity's potential and hoped to find a peaceful resolution. But his covert actions only deepened the rift between him and Enlil. As tensions reached a breaking point, Enlil convened a secret council with the most loyal Anunnaki generals. "The time for half measures is over," he declared. "The rebellion has spread too far. Humanity must be purged and the earth cleansed." Among the council, there was unease. Ninurta, Enlil's son and a fearsome warrior, hesitated. "Father," he said, "if we destroy them all, what will remain of this world? Can we not find another way?" "There is no other way," Enlil replied, his voice resolute. "Anu himself has approved my plan. The earth will be reset, and we will rebuild it as it was meant to be." The council dispersed, their orders clear. Preparations for the deluge had begun. The rebellion swept across the lands like a wildfire. Humanity, emboldened by Marduk's leadership and fueled by their righteous anger, prepared to face the might of the Anunnaki. No longer were they the obedient creations who toiled at the command of their masters. They had become warriors, engineers, and strategists, determined to wrest control of their destiny. Enlil's forces, bolstered by the finest Anunnaki warriors and state-of-the-art Vimanas, launched an offensive against a stronghold in Sumer, where rebellious kings had gathered their armies. The Anunnaki descended in a storm of light and sound, their celestial chariots blotting out the sun. From the battlements, the human defenders stood ready. They had no Vimanas, but they had built massive ballistae and catapults capable of hurling projectiles laced with explosive compounds. As the Anunnaki descended, the defenders unleashed a barrage. The first wave of human missiles struck true. A Vimana spiraled out of control, its glowing hull trailing smoke as it crashed into the battlefield below. The ground shook, and a deafening roar erupted as the wreckage exploded. The humans cheered, their defiance ringing out across the plains. But the Anunnaki were not so easily defeated. Enlil's generals, clad in armor that shimmered with otherworldly energy, led a ground assault. Their weapons, forged from celestial alloys, cut through human lines with ease. Where an Anunnaki blade struck, entire ranks of soldiers fell. Despite the odds, the human armies fought with unmatched ferocity. Under Marduk's guidance, they had devised guerrilla tactics, striking fast and retreating into hidden tunnels and forests. These maneuvers frustrated the Anunnaki, who were unaccustomed to such unpredictable warfare. As the battle raged, Marduk himself arrived, leading a contingent of human and rogue Anunnaki forces. Riding a captured Vimana, he descended onto the battlefield, his presence a beacon of hope for the rebels. "Stand firm," Marduk roared, his voice carrying over the clash of swords and the cries of the wounded. "Today, we show them the strength of humanity." He unleashed a torrent of energy from his staff, striking down an advancing Anunnaki squad. His forces rallied behind him, pushing back against the overwhelming might of Enlil's armies. Enlil, watching from his command post, clenched his fists. "This insolence will not go unanswered," he growled. He ordered Ninurta, his most trusted warrior, to enter the fray. Descending from the skies in his gilded Vimana, Ninurta landed amidst the rebel forces. Towering over the humans, his presence was awe-inspiring and terrifying. With a single sweep of his mace, he leveled an entire row of soldiers. Marduk rushed to confront him. Their clash was nothing short of cataclysmic. Energy blasts lit up the battlefield as the two titans exchanged blows. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the skies darkened as their conflict raged on. The humans watched in awe and terror as the two Anunnaki gods fought. For every human victory, there was a cost. The earth was scorched, and rivers ran red with blood. The battle at Sumer ended in a stalemate. Enlil's forces, though powerful, were unable to completely subjugate the rebels. Marduk's forces, battered but unbroken, retreated into the mountains, where they regrouped and fortified their positions. Enlil's frustration grew. These humans have become too dangerous, he admitted to his generals. If we cannot destroy their armies in battle, we must destroy their will to fight. Thus began a new phase of the conflict. Enlil ordered his forces to target civilian populations, destroying food supplies and poisoning water sources. Entire cities were razed to the ground, their inhabitants left to starve. The rebels responded in kind, launching daring raids on Anunnaki supply lines and sabotaging their war machines. The war had devolved into a brutal cycle of destruction, with no end in sight. Enki, watching the chaos unfold, grew increasingly disillusioned. He pleaded with Enlil to end the violence, but his words fell on deaf ears. "They have chosen their fate," Enlil said coldly, "and I will see it fulfilled." In secret, Enki began working on a plan. He knew that Enlil's solution, the destruction of humanity, was imminent. But Enki still believed in humanity's potential. He sought out Ziusudra, a wise and righteous man, known in the Bible as Noah, a wise and righteous man, and began instructing him in the ways of survival. "Prepare for what is to come," Enki told Ziusudra. "Build a vessel that can withstand the wrath of the gods. For when the flood comes, it will spare no one." As Enlil gathered his forces for a final assault, the stage was set for the most devastating chapter of the war, the unleashing of the deluge. The war had dragged on, leaving Earth battered and scarred. Entire cities lay in ruins, their once bustling streets now silent. Rivers ran dry, forests burned, and the skies hung heavy with smoke. Yet, despite the devastation, humanity's resolve remained unbroken. Marduk's forces continued their defiance, bolstered by the knowledge and weaponry he shared. The Anunnaki themselves were fracturing under the strain. What had once been a unified council now teetered on the edge of civil war, as loyalties shifted and old rivalries surfaced. Deep in the hidden caves of the Abzu, Enki convened a secret meeting with Anunnaki sympathetic to humanity's cause. Among them were Ninhursag, the motherly figure who had aided in humanity's creation, and a handful of others who had grown weary of the endless bloodshed. "Enlil's wrath knows no bounds," Enki said, his voice somber. "He sees no future for humanity, only destruction. But I refuse to let our creations be wiped from existence." Ninhursag nodded. "The humans may be flawed, but they are also capable of great things. We gave them life. We owe them the chance to grow beyond their mistakes." "But how do we stand against Enlil?" asked one of the Anunnaki generals. "He has the support of most of the council, and his armies are unmatched." Enki's expression hardened. "We do not stand against him. Not directly. Instead, we prepare. A flood is coming, and when it does, we must ensure that humanity's light is not extinguished." He revealed his plan to preserve humanity, a vessel large enough to carry Ziusudra, his family, and the seeds of life necessary to rebuild the earth. The group agreed to aid him in secret, knowing the risks of defying Enlil. Meanwhile, Enlil called another meeting of the Great Assembly at Nippur. The mood was tense, the council divided between those who supported Enlil's plan to reset the earth and those who questioned its necessity. "This rebellion has gone on long enough," Enlil thundered. "Every moment we delay, humanity grows stronger and bolder. They have turned our gifts into weapons, defiled our temples, and challenged our rule. The only solution is total annihilation." Enki rose to speak, his voice calm but firm. "Brother, you speak of humanity's flaws, but do you not see the flaws within ourselves? We created them in our image, yet we condemn them for reflecting us. Is it justice to punish them for what we have failed to teach?" Enlil's eyes burned with fury. You speak as though they are innocent. They have made their choice, and it is rebellion. If we allow this to continue, they will rise against us, and the balance of the cosmos will be undone. The argument grew heated, with accusations and counterarguments flying across the chamber. Marduk's name was invoked repeatedly, his role in the rebellion a point of contention. Finally, Anu, the father of the Anunnaki and the arbiter of their disputes, spoke. "Enough," he said, his voice carrying the weight of authority. "Enlil's concerns are valid, but so are Enki's. However, the balance must be maintained. If humanity has become a threat, we must act to neutralize it. Enlil, you have my approval to proceed." Enlil's victory was sealed. The flood would come. When word of the council's decision reached Marduk, his anger was palpable. "They would destroy the world rather than accept their failure," he said to his followers. "But we will not bow. If they bring the flood, we will fight it. Let them see the strength of humanity and those who stand with them." Marduk intensified his efforts, building fortresses in the mountains and arming his forces with advanced technology. He even sought out ancient devices hidden in the earth, relics of the Anunnaki's own past, to use against his enemies. Skirmishes broke out across the land, with Marduk's forces launching daring raids on Enlil's supply lines and outposts. The conflict escalated, drawing in even neutral Anunnaki who were forced to choose sides. As the rebellion raged on, Enlil put his flood plan into motion. He ordered the Anunnaki engineers to destabilize Earth's tectonic plates and melt the polar ice caps. Vast reservoirs of water, held in check for millennia, were prepared to be unleashed. The Anunnaki warriors under Enlil's command began withdrawing from human territories, leaving behind scorched earth and poison wells. Their departure was a harbinger of doom, a sign that something far worse was coming. Enki, working in the shadows, accelerated his own preparations. He visited Ziusudra under the cover of night, guiding him in the construction of the great vessel. "You must work quickly," Enki warned. "When the waters rise, they will come swiftly and without mercy. Only those aboard this vessel will survive." As the final days approached, the world seemed eerily quiet. The battles had ceased, both sides retreating to their strongholds. The humans, unaware of the full extent of Enlil's plan, took this as a sign of hope. But the Anunnaki knew better. In the heavens, the Anunnaki observed the earth, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what was to come. Even those who had supported Enlil's decision began to question the cost of their actions. In the shadows, Marduk prepared for one final stand. In the mountains of Arata, he rallied his forces, vowing to fight until the very end. "If the gods would destroy us," he declared, "then let us show them the strength of humanity's spirit. Let them see that we will not go quietly." The stage was set for the most devastating event in Earth's history, the unleashing of the deluge. The storm of rebellion was now a full-blown tempest. Marduk's defiance had galvanized not just humanity but even discontented Anunnaki. As the war escalated, it became clear that the final days of Earth's current age were upon them. The rebellion's flames burned brightest in the mountains of Arata, where Marduk's forces prepared for their last, desperate stand. Enlil's forces, led by his son Ninurta, marched on Arata with overwhelming strength. The Anunnaki warriors, supported by devastating celestial technology, surrounded the rebel stronghold. Massive vimanas hovered overhead, casting ominous shadows over the rugged peaks. Inside the fortress, Marduk stood resolute. He addressed his human and Anunnaki followers, his voice brimming with defiance. "They think their machines and armies can break us. But we are fighting for freedom, for survival. Let this battle be a message to the heavens. Humanity will not be erased." The first assault came at dawn. Enlil's forces unleashed a barrage from their vimanas, targeting the outer defenses. Blinding beams of light scorched the earth, leaving craters where walls once stood. The humans retaliated with their primitive yet cunning weapons. Catapults hurling explosives that ignited on impact and ballistae firing projectiles laced with volatile chemicals. The ground battle was no less fierce. Anunnaki warriors clashed in brutal hand-to-hand combat, their weapons humming with energy as they struck. Human soldiers, though smaller and less equipped, fought with unmatched ferocity, their determination fueled by the knowledge that this was their last stand. Marduk, wielding a staff that crackled with raw power, led his forces into the fray. He confronted Ninurta directly, their battle shaking the very mountains. Each blow they exchanged sent shockwaves through the battlefield, toppling soldiers and scattering debris. From his command center in Nippur, Enlil watched the siege unfold. Reports of heavy resistance frustrated him. "They refuse to yield," he muttered, pacing. "If we cannot break them, then we will bury them." He ordered his engineers to deploy experimental weaponry. Massive devices, capable of triggering localized earthquakes, were activated near Arata. The ground trembled violently, causing landslides that crushed entire battalions. The fortress walls cracked and crumbled, but still, the rebels fought on. "Father," Ninurta's voice crackled through the communication orb, "their spirit is unyielding. If we push too hard, we risk losing more than we gain." Enlil's face darkened. "Victory is the only acceptable outcome. Destroy them all if you must." As the siege dragged on, cracks began to form within the Anunnaki ranks. Not all of Enlil's forces agreed with the extreme measures being taken. Some began to question the morality of annihilating an entire species. One such dissenter was Ereshkigal, a powerful Anunnaki who had grown weary of the endless destruction. Secretly, she sent a message to Marduk, offering her support. "Enlil's path leads only to ruin," she said. "If you can hold out, I will weaken their forces from within." True to her word, Ereshkigal began sabotaging Enlil's supply lines and feeding false information to his commanders. Her actions gave the rebels a crucial edge, allowing them to hold Arata longer than anyone had anticipated. After weeks of relentless fighting, Enlil ordered an all-out assault on Arata. The sky darkened as Vimanas descended in formation, their weapons glowing ominously. Enlil's generals, emboldened by their leader's commands, unleashed every tool at their disposal. Marduk rallied his forces for one last stand. "This is it," he shouted. "If we fall today, we fall as warriors. Let the gods remember that humanity did not die quietly." The battle was apocalyptic. Explosions tore through the fortress, collapsing towers and sending fireballs into the sky. Anunnaki and human warriors fought side by side, their screams of defiance echoing over the chaos. Marduk faced Ninurta once more, their duel even more ferocious than before. Energy blasts lit up the battlefield as the two clashed, each determined to emerge victorious. The ground cracked beneath their feet, and nearby soldiers were flung aside like leaves in a storm. Despite their courage, the rebels were overwhelmed. The walls of Arata fell, and Enlil's forces poured in, cutting down the remaining defenders. Marduk was forced to retreat, his forces scattered and broken. The fall of Arata marked a turning point. Enlil, emboldened by his victory, called another council to finalize his plan. "The rebellion has been crushed," he announced. "But humanity's defiance cannot be erased by battle alone. The flood will wash away all traces of their rebellion, leaving a clean slate for us to begin anew." Some Anunnaki protested, but their voices were drowned out by Enlil's unwavering resolve. Anu, still torn but unwilling to defy his son, gave his final approval. Enlil wasted no time. He ordered the activation of the flood mechanisms, commanding his engineers to begin destabilizing the Earth's balance. Massive machines, hidden deep within the planet, began their work. The seas churned, the skies darkened, and the Earth trembled in anticipation of the coming cataclysm. As the flood preparations accelerated, Enki worked tirelessly to complete his own plan. In secret, he met with Ziusudra, guiding him through the final stages of constructing the great vessel. "You must move quickly," Enki warned. "When the waters rise, they will consume everything. Only those aboard your vessel will survive." Ziusudra, his family, and a small group of loyalists worked day and night, gathering supplies and ensuring the Ark was ready. Enki, risking everything, sent coded messages to other sympathetic Anunnaki, urging them to aid humanity where they could. The stage was set for the ultimate act of destruction and survival. The final countdown to destruction had begun. Beneath the Earth's surface, ancient Anunnaki machinery roared to life, shaking the foundations of the planet. Enlil, unwavering in his resolve, stood atop the towering ziggurat of Nippur, his piercing gaze fixed on the horizon. Humanity's rebellion had reached its end. Now, Earth itself would pay the price. The flood was no natural disaster. It was a weapon, a calculated and deliberate act of annihilation. Enlil's engineers had activated devices buried deep within the Earth, designed to destabilize the planet's tectonic plates and unleash a cascade of catastrophic events. Polar ice caps were melting at an accelerated rate, ancient reservoirs beneath the Earth's crust were rupturing, and tsunamis began forming in the oceans, poised to swallow the coasts. The Earth trembled, its cries echoing through the heavens. Forests fell, rivers swelled, and mountains cracked under the strain. Enlil's voice boomed across the heavens, addressing his forces. Let this be the end of their defiance. Let the waters cleanse the filth they have brought upon this world. Today, we reset the balance of creation. As Enlil enacted his plan, Enki moved in secret. He had no power to stop the flood, but he could preserve a fragment of humanity, a seed for the future. Deep in the forests, hidden from prying eyes, Enki met with Ziusudra, a wise and righteous man who had been chosen for this task. In ancient Sumerian texts, he was known as the last king of the pre-flood world. To later generations, his name would echo as Noah. Enki placed a hand on Ziusudra's shoulder. The gods have made their decision, he said solemnly. Enlil's wrath will wash over the earth, but I refuse to see humanity wiped out completely. You are our last hope. Ziusudra listened intently as Enki explained the task before him. Build a vessel, Enki continued, one large enough to carry your family and the creatures of the earth. The flood will be merciless, but this ark will shield you from its fury. For weeks, Ziusudra and his family worked tirelessly, cutting massive trees and shaping them into the great vessel Enki had designed. The ark rose from the earth like a monument to defiance and survival, its hull sealed with sacred resin to withstand the oncoming deluge. Animals were gathered, not by miracle, but through the guidance of Enki's messengers. As the ark neared completion, the earth grew restless. Storm clouds gathered, blotting out the sun. Lightning ripped through the sky, illuminating the chaotic seas. Enlil's forces withdrew to the heavens, leaving humanity to face the coming cataclysm. Marduk, still defiant, rallied his scattered forces in the mountains. Let the gods send their flood, he roared to his remaining followers. We will not bow. If we fall fighting. But the earth had already begun to collapse under Enlil's plan. Massive fissures opened in the ground, swallowing entire cities. Tidal waves surged inland, tearing through villages and sweeping away all in their path. The screams of humanity echoed across the land as the floodwaters rose higher and higher. When the flood came, it was beyond anything the world had ever seen. Oceans surged over continents, turning mountains into islands. The skies wept torrential rain, as if the heavens themselves mourned the destruction below. Ziusudra and his family hurried aboard the ark, sealing the massive door behind them as the waters reached their feet. Outside, the chaos was unimaginable. People climbed trees, scaled cliffs, and clung to debris, only to be swallowed by the relentless waves. Entire cities, monuments to humanity's defiance and ambition, were reduced to ruins beneath the floodwaters. Enki watched from his sanctuary, his heart heavy with sorrow. He had fought for humanity, but he could only save so few. The ark, now afloat, was a lone beacon of hope in an endless ocean of despair. From the heavens, Enlil observed the destruction with cold satisfaction. His plan had succeeded. The rebellious humans were gone, their cities erased, their defiance drowned. But as he gazed upon the watery wasteland that had once been Earth, a flicker of doubt crept into his mind. He had silenced humanity's rebellion, but at what cost? The world he had sought to restore was now a barren sea, devoid of life and promise. For the first time, Enlil wondered if his judgment had been too severe. Days turned into weeks, and the floodwaters began to recede. The ark, battered but intact, came to rest atop a high mountain. Ziusudra and his family emerged, stepping onto the drenched soil of a world reborn. The silence was deafening. They were alone, the last remnants of humanity in a vast and empty land. As the survivors began to rebuild, Enki appeared in secret, his presence a comfort to Ziusudra. "You have done well," he said. "You are the bridge between the old world and the new. Teach your children wisely, for the mistakes of the past must not be repeated." Ziusudra nodded, his resolve unshaken. He gazed at the horizon, where the sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden light on the land. The flood had taken everything, but it had also given humanity a chance to start anew. In the heavens, Enlil observed the survivors with a stoic expression. He had not anticipated Enki's defiance or the survival of Ziusudra. Yet, as he watched the small group rebuild, he felt a strange sense of acceptance. Perhaps, in this new beginning, there was hope for humanity after all. "We will watch them closely," Enlil said to the council. "But let this be a warning. If they stray again, there will be no mercy." Anu, ever the arbiter, nodded. "Let the earth recover. Let life flourish once more." The experiment continues. The earth had been transformed into a watery wasteland. What was once a vibrant, rebellious civilization now lay beneath endless waves. The survivors of humanity were few, their cries drowned out by the relentless roar of the flood. The heavens above bore witness to the devastation. The Anunnaki divided in their feelings about the aftermath. As Ziusudra's ark drifted on the turbulent waters, the enormity of the destruction became clear. Entire cities had vanished, their monuments and towers reduced to nothingness. Great rivers that once sustained life had merged with the roaring seas. Ziusudra stood at the bow of the ark, his eyes scanning the endless horizon. The ark, his lifeboat in the apocalypse, was the only remnant of a world that no longer existed. Inside the ark, his family and the gathered animals were silent, subdued by the magnitude of what had occurred. For weeks, they had endured the storm, the thunder and lightning tearing through the skies. Now, all that remained was the vast, eerie stillness of an endless ocean. From his hidden sanctuary, Enki watched the ark's journey with a heavy heart. His gamble to save Ziusudra and humanity had succeeded, but the cost weighed heavily on him. He had defied Enlil, his own brother, and the Great Assembly to preserve a spark of life. Through secret communication with the ark, Enki offered guidance. "Stay strong, Ziusudra," he whispered. "The waters will recede soon. When they do, you must lead humanity into a new era, one of wisdom, unity, and peace." High above, Enlil observed the aftermath from his celestial vantage point. The floodwaters had carried out his will, erasing the rebellious humans and their defiant cities. Yet, his victory felt hollow. The earth was quiet now, devoid of the vibrant chaos that once defined it. He turned to Ninurta, his son and trusted general. "The flood has done its work," Enlil said, his voice devoid of emotion. "But I cannot help but wonder, will they stray again? Will this destruction mean anything if humanity rises to defy us once more?" Ninurta, ever loyal, replied, "They have been given a warning they will never forget. The survivors, few as they are, will carry the memory of this destruction for generations. It will shape them, keep them in line." But Enlil remained unconvinced. Deep within, a seed of doubt had been planted, a seed that would grow as he watched the survivors rebuild. After months of drifting, the floodwaters began to recede. Slowly, mountain peaks emerged from the vast ocean, followed by valleys and plains. The ark, guided by the currents and Enki's unseen hand, came to rest on a high plateau. Ziusudra and his family stepped out onto dry land, their feet sinking into the soft, wet earth. Around them, the world was unrecognizable. The landscape had been reshaped, its familiar landmarks erased by the flood's fury. They knelt on the ground, offering prayers of gratitude to Enki for sparing them. Ziusudra, his face streaked with tears, looked to the sky. "We are but a fragment of what was," he said, "but we will honor the lives lost by building a new and just world." Life after the flood was not easy. The survivors faced a barren world, stripped of its resources and scarred by the wrath of the gods. Ziusudra led his family and the surviving animals in the arduous task of rebuilding. Using the tools and knowledge preserved in the ark, they began planting seeds and constructing shelters. Enki, ever the guide, provided them with insights. Through dreams and visions, he showed Ziusudra where fertile land could be found, how to tame the rivers, and how to restore balance to the earth. "Teach your descendants the lessons of the past," Enki instructed. "Let them know the price of defiance, but also the power of unity. The world is yours to rebuild, but it must not repeat the mistakes of the old." From the heavens, Enlil watched the survivors with a mix of frustration and reluctant respect. Despite his efforts to erase humanity, they had endured. Enki's interference, though infuriating, had ensured the continuity of life on Earth. As he stood among the Anunnaki Council, Enlil addressed the assembly. "The humans have survived, thanks to Enki's defiance," he said. "But let this serve as their final chance. Should they stray again, there will be no redemption, no survival." The flood was their warning. Anu, the arbiter of their conflicts, raised a hand. "Let them rebuild," he said. "The earth needs life, and we need balance. Enki's actions may have gone against your will, Enlil, but they have preserved hope for the future. We will watch humanity closely." As the floodwaters receded entirely, the earth began to heal. The survivors expanded their efforts, building villages and restoring agriculture. Animals once again roamed the land, and rivers returned to their courses. Ziusudra, now an elder and a leader, gathered his descendants. He recounted the story of the flood, of the wrath of the gods, and of the guidance of Enki. "Remember this," he told them. "The gods are powerful, but we must walk our path with wisdom and humility. The earth is ours to care for, not to destroy." The memory of the flood would linger for generations, etched into the consciousness of humanity. It was a story of destruction, but also one of survival, resilience, and the enduring spirit of life. The flood had passed, leaving behind a world cleansed by water and reborn in silence. Humanity's numbers had been reduced to a handful of survivors, their memories haunted by the wrath of the gods. The earth was no longer the bustling, rebellious civilization it once was, but a blank slate, awaiting the imprint of a new era. High in the heavens, the Anunnaki Council gathered to review the aftermath. Enlil, still commanding an imposing presence, spoke first. "The rebellion has been silenced, and the world has been cleansed. Yet, the resilience of humanity remains troubling. Their survival, though limited, leaves a potential for history to repeat itself." Enki, standing opposite his brother, replied with measured defiance. "Their survival is a testament to their strength and potential. You see defiance as a flaw, Enlil. I see it as the seed of greatness. Humanity was not created to be perfect but to grow, to learn, and to evolve." Ninhursag, the voice of wisdom among the council, interjected. "What has been done cannot be undone. But we must accept that humanity now carries both the scars of destruction and the wisdom of survival. Perhaps this balance will guide them better than our interference ever could." Anu, the father of the Anunnaki, raised his hand for silence. "The flood has restored balance for now, but the earth must be watched carefully. Humanity will write its own destiny, but should they falter again, we will decide their fate. For now, let us withdraw and allow the world to heal. On Earth, Ziusudra emerged as a beacon of hope. His leadership became the foundation for a new human civilization. Guided by the lessons of the past and the wisdom imparted by Enki, he set about rebuilding not just homes but a way of life rooted in balance and reverence for the natural world. Ziusudra's family worked tirelessly to cultivate the fertile lands revealed by the receding waters. The Ark's store of seeds and animals proved invaluable, allowing them to restore agriculture and rebuild ecosystems. As villages began to form, Ziusudra gathered his descendants around the fire each evening to recount the story of the flood. "Never forget," he would say, "the gods watch us, not to punish but to guide." The flood was their warning, a reminder of the consequences of hubris. Let us honor their gift of survival by living in harmony with the earth and one another. Over generations, the survivors expanded their reach, creating the first post-flood societies. These were simple at first, clusters of huts and shared farms, but they carried within them the seeds of the great civilizations that would rise again. The memory of the flood became sacred, passed down as both a warning and a source of identity. The story of Ziusudra and the Ark evolved, becoming myth and legend. Temples were built to honor Enki, the god who defied the decree of destruction to save humanity. Prayers were whispered in the wind, seeking his guidance and protection. Far from the humble villages of Ziusudra's descendants, in the ruined mountains of Arata, Marduk plotted his return. Though his rebellion had been crushed and his army scattered, he had not been destroyed. Watching from the shadows, Marduk swore vengeance against Enlil and those who had brought the flood. "They think they have won," he muttered, his voice filled with venom. "But humanity will rise again, and with them, my power. Enlil's reign will not last forever." Marduk's defiance marked the first whispers of future conflicts. His influence, though diminished, began to seed discontent among the scattered remnants of humanity. In the aftermath of the flood, Enki continued to guide humanity in subtle ways. He appeared in dreams and visions, offering wisdom and encouragement to those who sought his counsel. To Ziusudra, he gave one final message before departing. "Your journey does not end here, Ziusudra. You and your descendants will shape this world, for better or worse. Remember the flood not as a punishment, but as a lesson. Teach them to seek balance, to honor the earth, and to strive for harmony. In doing so, you may avoid the mistakes of the past." With those words, Enki withdrew to the celestial realms, leaving humanity to forge its destiny. As the years turned into centuries, humanity began to flourish once more. Great civilizations rose, carrying echoes of the past in their myths and traditions. The story of the flood, told in countless variations, became a cornerstone of human culture. Yet, the lessons of the flood were not always heeded. Ambition, greed, and defiance returned, sparking conflicts and rivalries. The Anunnaki watched from the heavens, intervening only when the balance threatened to tip too far. For Enlil, the flood remained both a triumph and a reminder of his own limits. For Enki, it was a symbol of hope, proof that humanity's potential outweighed its flaws. For Ziusudra and his descendants, it was the beginning of a new chapter, a chance to write a better story. The Deluge Wars marked a turning point in the history of Earth and its inhabitants. It was a time of great destruction and great renewal, a moment when the fate of humanity hung by a thread and was preserved by the compassion of a God who believed in their potential. In the end, the flood was not just a story of wrath but of survival, resilience, and the enduring spirit of life. It was a reminder that even in the face of divine fury, humanity could endure, and perhaps even thrive. If this story opened your eyes to a hidden truth or sparked your curiosity, don't let it stop here. Hit that subscribe button to join us on more epic journeys into ancient mysteries and lost knowledge. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Your insights could spark even deeper discussions. And don't forget to share this video with friends and family who need to know the untold truth behind the flood. Together, we can uncover the past and bring these stories to life for the world to see.